What is up, guys? Today we're gonna kind of be going through the Kayo Kassai matchup. This is part of our new series called Clash. Please subscribe if you want to see more episodes. I think we're gonna have quite a lot going up quite quickly. Essentially, we're gonna be showing off gameplay and showing how you kind of interact with these matchups and how you kind of get ahead. Especially if you're looking for advice on how to do well into some of these decks going into Pro Quest season. Um, I think we're going to be going through against KO Armed and Dangerous and the four new heroes with Kassai, and then from there we're going to be spending time covering more decks like Verdants, etc., and just kind of giving good spreads on how to play into different matchup spreads and interactions. So yeah. Here opponent is opening up with the Claw. We just want to block this with the Shelter because we don't want it on our turn. Opponent's going to give it go again, which is completely fine. We knew about this. So we just block this. It means we don't have the Shelter on our turn, which means that we can get more aggressive, which is exactly where we want to be. See, so now we filtered that away. Our opponent did get a kind of nice turn one, but now we've got this draw sword, so now our whole turn's going to kind of become unlocked. We drew this Blade Flurry off it. Like, you can see that, like, this is kind of how Kassai works in this matchup. You want to just get free turns of tempo and just kind of get ahead that way. And here I'm just going to fire off the Blade Flurry straight away because we don't want to eat any Arsenal disruption, etc. We're going to make a Vigor token, but then we're going to Brave Forge the second time because we want to try and connect with this Spoils War again, because then we have a bullet on our hand straight away. And obviously this is good because we don't want we want to kind of tax our opponent for keeping cards with this agility and might. So this is good because now they're completely burned out of armor. They've taken 9 damage. We essentially got 15 value out of turn 1. That's exactly where we want to be. Our opponent's following up with the Blood Rush, which is pretty common. I feel like you typically see it turn 1 or turn 2. And we're probably just going to be blocking out this turn and just sending Saber 2 off the Vigor. So Reckless Stampede, this is a card that we're pretty much always just saying no blocks to because we don't want to give our opponent any additional value by blocking out with this. Hello. Yeah, so we just want to get ahead that way. Our opponent's coming in for 5. We're going to block 5 like this because Outline Skirmish is our lowest value card. So we're going to block 5 like this. We're going to wait till damage step, and then we're going to crack our balance. And potentially we might take some damage off this next turn if there's a particular reason to. This doesn't have an on hit or anything, so I'm actually pretty happy to just block with this with Valiant Dynamos. Take 7, go back to our turn because our hand's pretty good. A lot of the time it's about evaluating our hands and making sure that like they do something powerful enough to justify keeping them into KO. Here we've got a pretty ideal setup because we're gonna swing with the Saber for free for 5. Our opponent, even if they're scaling us, we still have 2 Blood Follows Blade here, so we can just get ahead. So we can fire this off, deal 5 damage, make a Sellsword, swing for 3 off it. Sorry, my cat has decided to say hello. Let's just get you over there. We are not going to make the Vigor token here because we just want to Arsenal the Blood Follows Blade. We are going to swing for 3 with the Sellsword. And then we can just, we might actually Kassai here if our opponent gives us a card, because that way we can make the gold. And then we can swing in for 5, and our opponent has to give us 2 cards if they want to stop it. Oh. Opponent just wants to undo here, let's just let them do that. Always nice to give people the space. Draw swords, swing for 5, blood. Opponent thinking about whether they should change their blocks probably. This is pretty ideal for us because we're going to get back even on damage. We're going to reset our dynamos. We're going to make the Sellsword, which our opponent has to give least 3 value off of Mandible Claw to clear, so we're always kind of getting our share of value off of it. We're going to activate Kassai here, and then just swing the Saber for 5, and then still get to Arsenal the Bloodfaller's Blade. Our opponent has one less card in hand. So, but because we played a red slice and dice and not a yellow, it means our opponents can't just like arms block. They have to give us all their equipment if they want to stop this. So I just want to swing 5 with the Saber like this. Awesome. Opponent gave us a cast bones plus their scaling. Now we don't have to play around scaling the rest of the game essentially. That's exactly where we want to be. Our hand not particularly great. But our opponent is kind of just letting us get away with it here. And we can always use the copper to kind of get out of this. Trying to think, what's the greed line and what's the efficient line? I just want to block 7 like this. We just want to take our time against KO really. Like the more value we get from our Valiant Dynamos, the better. And we can start activating hero ability like every turn because our opponent's got like no armor left. Probably not this next turn cycle just because I want to swing the Bloodfaller's Blade and get the value, so I'm probably just cracking copper, redrawing, and then hopefully just getting it off that way. Hopefully we maybe draw something powerful off top. It's not ideal, but I think it's pretty okay if we just play the Sharpened Senses here. And we're going to swing this with 3, because if our opponent just blocks with an attack, then we can make sure the Bloodfaller's Blade gets through. Playing with this card has actually like changed quite a lot about Kassai, like how you sequence things, how you try to get maximum value out of things is like a little bit more complicated because you just want to like bait your opponent not into blocking. Like we did there, like it seems kind of bad to use this for just 2 value, but like sometimes it's just really efficient to just try and get the extra value this way. I think there was an argument for us to Kassai there, but when the Saber's only coming for 3 and they've still got 2 armor block left, it feels kind of bad. Whereas now we can activate it on this huge Spoils of War turn, which is really good for us because it means that we can probably fire off the next blood on our hands we draw, and we've seen 1 and we haven't pitched any, I think. So opponent's going to fire off for 8, we're just going to take it because typically you just want to take the first swing against KO. It's weird, you want to like take the first swing but you also don't because of Reckless Stampede. It's like there's a lot of tension now in how you play it because of that, which I think is quite cool. So here I just want to block 5, 6, 7, 8. So I want to make sure that we kind of have enough life total to find the blood on our hands to get ahead. Opponent has played 1 Blood Rush, so we want to play the Spoils, activate Kassai. Hopefully our opponent's going to block this turn, because their hand might not convert well. If they do, then we just kind of get a lot of value ahead by playing the Blade Flurry. Yeah, this is great here, because now our opponent's out of armor. This is going to come in for a second breakpoint on the Spoils. And then we're going to get our gold token, which means we can start doing really efficient plays that way. And then we're going to come in for 4 again. Our opponent has to give us 2 cards, or we get our Spoils of War turn essentially ready. And this is kind of the best outcome for us, because it means they only have 2 cards going into the next turn, but we also get to hopefully just get ahead that way. This is not great for us, because this hand is very bad, but it's not awful either. I'm going to choose to use our equipment up here, because there's a very good chance that we could get stuck in some really awkward spots if Reckless Stampede comes down, so I think it's fine to use up equipment that way. We're going to crack a gold here. We're going to slice and dice, and we're just going to try and either provoke them in an awkward spot to get ahead that way, or we just Arsenal to take it on the chin and we just pitch this Brave Forge, which is kind of inefficient, but I think sometimes you just have to make plays like this when you're behind like we are. Some really filthy things you can do with Provoke in this matchup where you like, they'll give you a card to stop damage and then you'll just like provoke them over the top so you get like a whole extra card of value. Which means that like they essentially can only like swing claw pass. Yeah, like exactly here. Like the game is pretty much over now because our opponent can only just swing claw for 4, pass. They have to discard that Bare Fangs. Can't come in for lethal next turn, so we're just gonna keep our full hand. We still got our gold and our 5 copper. So as soon as we draw our blood on our hands, the game just ends. And this is kind of perfect because we can crack the gold and then just play out our whole hand to get ahead. Or you can just Arsenal the Sink Below to shore up and make sure that we don't die to any weird things coming through. Yeah, so swing 5, opponent has to give us 2 cards, or we Blood Follows Blade, swing for 3, swing for 3, 4, 5. So opponent's in a pretty rough spot here. I think a big thing with this matchup is also just getting your opponent low enough that you can make sure they can't keep enough cards for good Blood Rush hands. Blood Rush is really a card that you get advantage of playing 5-card hands, so as soon as you just strip them back to 2 cards and make it really hard for them to keep lower life totals, pretty easy. And we just scoop it up from there. We look at our values. First of all, we throw a good game, but 18, 19, 16, 20, 14. This time we were getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 health on the Centauri, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then Arsenaling Sink Below. Like, we were getting quite a lot of value here. And that really just goes to show the strength of the deck. And this exactly shows kind of why Kassai is favored in this matchup. You just kind of build up slow value over time. Particularly if your opponent might eventually just draw blue heavy hands like this or red heavy hands that don't block well. You can kind of just cycle a lot of value that way. So yeah.